2,000 years ago, according to our Jewish tradition, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi had a big decision to make. What do we do about preserving our oral tradition? We have these teachings that have been passed down for a long time now, and it seems that they're not being preserved as well as we once hoped. How can I, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, do something about that? Rabbi Yehuda decided to do something really radical. He wrote the stuff down. He took a set of teachings that we called the Oral Torah, and he froze them in a text. And you better believe he got pushback for it too. For hundreds of years, there had been a general acceptance of the premise that the Oral Torah could not be written down. Communities forbade it. The idea was that if you wrote this text down, it would be frozen, and it would be impossible to adapt it to local circumstances or to changing times. But Rabbi Yehuda bucked that trend. He did it anyway. And before long, this group of people that resisted books was being called the people of the book. So why do I bring this up? I think this is important because what Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did was transformational. It took Judaism into a period where entirely new possibilities were achievable that once could never have been dreamed of. The idea of commentaries being written on ancient texts where somebody in the 7th century or the 10th century could communicate, in a sense, with their predecessors 800 years before and share a page with them. That happened. Did Rabbi Yehuda know that would happen? Maybe not. But through his decision, he opened up an incredible new world for the future of Judaism. We're in a similar time because, as we all know, the media that we use in our lives, the texts that we've long held dear, are not only happening in written form anymore. What Rabbi Yehuda did was radical for its time, but it wouldn't be radical today. And the reason for that is that we have Wi-Fi. We have a new beast called the internet. And some of us, maybe all of us, need to figure out what the heck we do with that. I want to share a story as we look at the role of the Jewish internet today. I want to flash back a few months from me. So it's Shavuot, which is my favorite holiday. And I go to the congregation nearby with my girlfriend. We go to their learning programming, and there's a nice program led by a rabbi about the history of Shavuot, some of its customs. And we enjoy it, but it's over at 10. And my favorite thing about Shavuot is the tradition of staying up all night studying Jewish text, sharing it with people I love. So what do I do with that? Well, what we did, what Valerie and I did, my girlfriend, we went home and we hopped in front of a laptop. We headed to BimBam, a site full of Jewish videos, and we watched our way through the entire Torah for 6 hours. In 6 hours, 360 minutes, we were able to experience the whole of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy through their short 3 to 5 minute videos. Now, did we get every word? No, but we did get every parsha, every Torah portion. And we stopped and paused and talked about what our favorites were, which videos connected with us, which we would push to go to new directions. And we even got to experience what it's like to wander through Genesis, the story of the Jewish family, into Exodus, the story of Jewish liberation, into Leviticus, the building of a Jewish infrastructure and of sacrifices, into Numbers, wandering, and Deuteronomy, the second telling, all in one night. It was inspiring, and I can tell you, it wouldn't have been possible even 25 years ago. The Jewish internet's doing that, and it's doing that in so many aspects of our lives. 30 years ago, if I were an elderly person with a disability, and I wanted to access Jewish communal life, there would be a number of huge challenges to doing that. I might not be able to drive to the institutions nearby, and even if I could, maybe some of the institutions weren't built with the accessibility needs in mind that would be needed to serve me. Today, those issues are still there, and we're wrestling with them, thankfully. But we have another option too. An elderly person who can't, on a weekly basis, swing a trip to the synagogue can still stream into services via live stream. And people are doing this all around the country, hundreds, thousands of them. And that's creating a lifeline for people to connect to Jewish life that otherwise might be isolated in their homes with nothing. Those people still, I hope, are able to access Jewish community in person when they can, but the ability to do it 24/7 around the clock is a new, inspiring addition. 30 years ago, on that note, if I wanted to learn something Jewish at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, maybe I'm having trouble sleeping, here would be my options. Whatever's lying around in my house. If I happen to have a rich library of Jewish texts, I could open one up and read it. But if I don't, or if I had a particular query in mind to read about or look for, I didn't have Rabbi Google. Now I do. Anything from Jewish music to a Jewish podcast to Jewish videos to Judaism and sports. I can Google at any moment of my day, even in the middle of the night, and enrich my Jewish life. That's powerful. And perhaps most inspiring, 30 years ago, if you wanted to have a Jewish communal experience and you were living in a tiny rural community with only a few Jews anywhere within a few miles of you, what did you do? How could you access that? Well, you could perhaps make an hour drive or a couple hour drive if you're that isolated. You could satisfy yourself with a small community experience, which can be powerful, but maybe lacks something that the critical mass of a few hundred would bring. But today, you can be in Jackson, Mississippi, as I was for 2 years, and be a part of national social justice movements on a weekly basis. How? Google Hangout, Facebook. Now, could I attend all the protests that were happening? No. But I can be an active participant in a movement and contribute my thoughts in a way that 25 years ago, even 15 years ago, could never have happened. The world of Jewish possibilities in 2016 has opened in myriad ways that even 10 years ago could not have ever been something we dreamed of. Now, I want to dream. And I hope all of us want to dream. I want us to enter into this crazy experiment called the internet and try it all out. Do Jewish services online work? Do Jewish life cycle events online work? Does Jewish text learning online work? Does Jewish cultural experiments, do Jewish cultural experiences make sense online? Can we have forms of Jewish cooking online? I don't know that we can taste through Wi-Fi yet, but why not try it? Because I fundamentally believe that we are looking at an experience that's similar to Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi's. He didn't know what was going to happen with his innovation of text learning, of written Jewish documents. But once he did it, my gosh, we took that and ran. Over and over again, when there's been a new place, a new space, we Jews have found a way to make the best of it. We started just centralized in Jerusalem, but before long, that didn't hold up, and we were spread out in diaspora all around the world. We saw that as a national tragedy, as we should have. Our temple was destroyed. That which connected us for hundreds of years, the place we made a pilgrimage to 3 times a year, was gone. But we were in diaspora and we found a way to make it work. And eventually, we came to realize that a Judaism with inspiring diverse forms of Jewish life in Europe and in Africa and in Asia could be even cooler than a Judaism where we all are located in close proximity to Jerusalem. And then another migration came. We made our way to this place we called the New World. We made our way to America. Now, were we doing that just to experiment with new Jewish possibilities? No, we were doing it often because of experiences of persecution or discrimination in other countries. But once we made our way in, all of a sudden, we started to build an incredible, vibrant form of Judaism that actually became distinctive. American Judaism started to contribute ideas to Jewish life that hadn't existed before and that built it up in new and inspiring ways. American Judaism brought us female rabbis for the first time in history. Gay and lesbian rabbis for the first time in history. Inspiring. Today we're in the midst of another migration. But the best part about this migration to the internet is that we can enter it without leaving the places we know and love in person. We don't have to exit Providence, Rhode Island or Chicago, Illinois to enter into Facebook, YouTube, or Google Hangout. And what I propose is that we do it. We make that migration. Because gosh, I already am experiencing the fruits of a Jewish internet that makes access to Judaism, to this set of texts and culture and music and food and history that makes my life so enriching and that can make the world better. I'm already experiencing that in 2016 as a crucial daily lived experience that makes Judaism more exciting for me. I want thousands, I want millions of people to have that. And they can. Because more people have access to the Jewish internet than any in-person location in the entire world. There's no one spot on the planet that a million Jews could be at tomorrow if we tried to. But the internet, there's beyond 1 million, there's multiple millions of Jews on it every single day. Sorry, When I went to summer camp, one of my favorite songs was a classic, now a classic, only 40, 50 years old, called Wherever You Go, There's Always Someone Jewish. Wherever you go, there's always someone Jewish. Well, in 2016, wherever includes the internet. And you better believe there are Jews there. There already are. But I want to make sure that the Judaism that we have there continues to grow and enliven our Jewish lives as much as it possibly can. Because the democratization that the internet brings, where all of us from our living rooms for free can access treasure troves of wisdom, is perhaps as life-changing and as important as the writing down of texts that made it possible for Judaism to migrate all around the world, being held in book form. In 2016, it's time for us to understand that Judaism doesn't live only at addresses ending in street or road. It also locates itself in addresses that end in .com and .org. Thank you.